Oh, hey, it's morning. Amazing. I'm up, and I slept some. um, I had an interview, and it's barely morning, but I got up a couple hours earlier, and I also, I don't know. Like I said, I think the fever made me break. So we're starting second turn here. First turn was definitely a schlag, both for personal reasons and otherwise. And let's start going through these because it's a little different here. So everybody gets fund markers based on their economy chart. I don't know if anybody's in place yet to get one. Doesn't look like it. Now comes the complicated stuff. Card drawing. First of all, we grab our specials and we'll be getting them again. Any card that we happen to save, or cards in some cases, I guess, are already there. We don't worry about them. We count up the additional cards, again, off of the fortified cities that we have, our bonuses, our bonus from the leader. But somewhere we're allowed to choose a card. There we go. So it's kind of weird, like, again, organization is problematic in this in ways that I'm just not used to. So we're following the order of stuff, and we get to the funds, drawing cards, additional cards that you're supposed to get, the impact. This is all part of the drawing cards. But as you wander down through all of this stuff, way down towards the bottom is the, hey, you can spend a fund to grab a specific card. Now that's going to be pretty hard for anybody to want to do. If you have maximal funds, or worse, you're over, I don't know, it's not going to happen. But there is some danger. So like Boris here has a funds limit of 3. He has 2, but his replacement will have a funds limit of maximum 2, which means this might be my only kind of time now to get rid of the funds. Now I have a whole turn to do so, etc. But I don't think anybody is going to spend their fund. But you do have to kind of look to see who, whether or not you're going to die this turn in order to make that decision. As it stands, I think everybody's just going to draw their cards without any picks, which is different from how the game began. And how the game began was kind of annoying because, it's right at the beginning of the game, first time playing it, etc. And you have to make a decision as to which one of these specified events, you want to take at the beginning of the game, without really knowing how they're going to play out, etc. A lot of games have that kind of issue where you have to make a decision ahead of time, right at the beginning of the game that might have really long-term impacts. And it's hard to tell, which way you should go. For good or ill, if this were really a tournament type game, like Here I Stand is, there's less complaint about it, but I always will complain about something like that where, because I'm a game browser. Yeah. Everybody's doing pretty good, actually, pretty well. 8 or 9 cards per player for everyone, which, Sweden's picked up some ground by getting rid of the Regency. But there's one exception, and that is the Turks, because they have no fortified cities, which means they get none of the cards here. And that it's a big jump start, right? It goes from 0 to 6. Now, the intention behind this is hey, you lost your capital, you're screwed. But their capital isn't covered by one of those. Unless I'm mistaken, maybe I screwed up at the beginning. There's no control marker on their capital, which means that if you screw them in Europe, like has been done this big, they have almost nothing left. And it's going to be really hard for them to recover the position that the Habsburgs put them in with that Persian War. They're just not going to have much at all. And, you know, it's kind of funny because most of the countries, you know, are doing quite well. The Poles, 9 here, but a card less drops them to 8. An additional brings them up to 9. The others, I think, are all around. Somebody else may have had 9. Anyway. So yeah, that's a big drop, and the Turks may have just been knocked out of the game basically by that, which was not something I was foreseeing. Okay, we find rule 6 because that's where everything is. And okay, so now I have to do one more thing. Anybody who has a fund marker can choose to throw away up to 4 cards for a fund marker and get something else. That might well be worth it if you have a handful of low-valued cards, because that fund marker can be regained by a single 3-point card. I don't know if you can use the plus for that. There's some things that you must use a 3-point card for. I would guess you can there, but I could look that up. 6911. You do find that very, very helpful. The more of that there is, the better. But then it brings me into something this size, which makes it somewhat less useful. And the operations are not listed here. So I'm just assuming you can use the plus card there. Okay. No problem. So that means I'm going to have to look at everybody's hand and see, did they have a handful of shit? Now, on the first turn, a couple of players did have a handful of low-valued cards. They probably would have exchanged, but no one had any funds. Now there's 3 players out of the 5 who have collected up some funds already. See, it's a good idea to do that. Only the Russian player... See, now, I just ran into something that contradicts something else I saw, or the way that I've been playing it at least, and because of my assumption on that. Only the Russian player chose to take advantage of that. Everybody had a couple of smaller cards, but the Russians decided, well, with 2 funds in hand, it might make sense, and they definitely got a good deal out of it in terms of what I got. What I ran into was this: playing 2 cards. A player can play 2 cards if one has a plus sign. 2 cards can be played only as operations points. It's forbidden to play them. Player has his disposal as many operation points as the sum of the card values. Playing 2 cards, player can spend the sum of operation points to move one of 4 markers on military, economic, religion, domestic policy. I may have noticed this before, but, and then the marker can be moved as many boxes as the sum of operation points. So what I've been doing with pluses is if you play a plus card, you got an extra one, which is based on this. In case of playing 1 card with a plus sign after using operations points, player can move one of these markers. The marker can be moved 1 box to the right on the appropriate track. You know, these seem to say 2 different things. One seems to say you get a free point, but you don't get to spend anymore. The other seems to say that you must spend all the points of both cards to move these little policy marker tracks. I don't know how to reconcile it. Maybe what's meant is nothing by this, that this is just fucking wrong, and that On the and certainly I would have done different things. And on this, that you don't have to spend all your points, which is kind of what it's saying here. After using operational points, you can then move them using this rule with the remainder of your points. So it feels like I did it wrong. I followed one of the two rules without paying attention to the other one. And then there's another place where it talks about the religion, which also discusses this, which is after spending operation points on other actions, a plus sign is used to move religion to DP marker one box to the right. Again, it's that one box, very specific, not spending operations points, but the way it's worded, after spending operation points on other actions, you could again argue that you could spend additional, you could save points and spend them to move the religion track. That really tracks with this this wording, and okay, we're going to try it that way this time, which is you must play 2 cards. So this is also interesting. Here it's under the 2 cards playing. None, which I never did, right? So maybe there's 2 different mechanisms. If you play a plus card and don't play an additional card for additional ops points, you get a free point to spend on those tracks. And that's the only thing you can spend. But if you play both cards, you must play all the points. You must play all the points to move those markers. I definitely would have played differently that way. I don't know which one it is. Like, I've got 2 reasonable answers here. One is that there's 2 different rule sets depending on whether or not you play 2 cards for points. That's the one that the rules actually seem to support. That seems fucking insane and unlikely, but that is how the rules are actually written, how I would interpret them if I wanted to be an absolute, like, what do you put aside any thoughts of what's reasonable and what's not. But at least it means what I did was legitimate, which is when I play one of those cards, I get an extra bonus point by using my plus card without playing an additional card. Which one makes more sense? I don't know. I certainly had players who were doinking around, not sure what the hell they were doing. All right, I've got someone who's due to come here to get paid because the check I mailed him didn't get to him. But let's look at rulers changing. That's the next thing in here. And, again, these rules need a complete rewrite. I don't think this is a purely translational issue. It feels like something that was worded very differently, in the original Polish or whatever, got translated correctly, This is not just a grammatical issue or whatever. This is something that I feel like probably in the original rules was just as confusing. And that's certainly the case with some other games like the Europa Universalis and La Grande Guerre that I've run into. American companies, at least the big ones, don't tend to let you do that. They assign you a developer who makes sure things are solid. All right. You know what I forgot? I forgot my good and poor harvest markers. I already canceled them out. Okay. Yeah. And there's nothing else sitting around. Okay. So rulers changed this. A ruler can be changed. No, probably must. Well, it's painful. Oh, what's the special procedure? Because a ruler can be changed during player's impulse phase when special procedure is conducted. I mean, Russia would have, or not Russia, Turkey would have gotten rid of crappy Murad if I knew about this special procedure. There it is. Playing event ruler's disease. Every ruler. Oh. Oh shit. That's not how it was worded. Hold on. This sucks ass too. So here, there's two ways to do this. One is Palace Coup, which is not on the available actions marker. It's conducted by playing as operations points a card with a plus sign. Before action, ruler card is flipped to the backside or replaced by successor if it had already been on the backside. You can weaken your own ruler. Okay, you know, yeah. Don't put it on here, and it's going to be pretty hard to remember anything. As are the movement of these things, which is also not on there. Okay, but let's look at this one. The player's impulse phase here too, and I mean, Turkey certainly would have done a coup, right? Does this affect anything? First of all, is it always in effect whenever you play a plus card for operations points? Are you hit with a coup? Whether you want it or not, or is it your option to press a coup? I'm assuming option, but I'm really not sure. But there are a lot of plus cards, and you're going to see the rulers disappear really quickly if it's if it is forced. But this other one, playing the event ruler's disease card. In this way, every ruler, also reigning another superpower, can be weakened or eliminated if already been weakened. Here, it says select a ruler. Now, I think this may be a grammatical issue or a translation issue. I think instead of every ruler, what they mean is any ruler, because this says select a ruler. It's the only way to reconcile the two, you know, and okay. But by saying every ruler, what you're saying is, well, if the Russians played this, every single ruler would have been weakened or damaged. I'm assuming also that the coup is at the player's option, because otherwise, man, it's just ugly. All right, I got to swap batteries. I'll come back to this. The mistakes we found today, I think we've resolved most of them. The plus cards for moving these tracks, I'm still unsure. And, you know, that has a major impact, right? It certainly impacted me heavily by not being able to use all the points, because there were some countries that diddled around, built troops and whatnot, when they would have loved to spend some points to move these tracks around and try to improve their position. The very slow movement that you get of one per plus card in some ways might be, you know, I made the argument for it. I made the argument that, yeah, these countries weren't really able to change their administration very quickly, and those places where they would have been able to, like with the Poles and the religion, and they sure the hell would, you know, use them up for that, because those are victory points. But you know, most of the changes feel like very slow-moving things. The 10 years, yeah, you might be able to get a couple of points on that, but you probably wouldn't have, completely changed something. And where bigger changes are warranted, you can do that with event cards. So, hey, we'll see what comes up, right? Well, it's pretty clear that you're meant to be able to spend more points than that. Just under what circumstances, I don't know. I don't know if you get a free point with the plus card and you must spend, well, you may or must spend all your points if you do a plus card with a second card. Okay, where are we? Rulers changing, looking for that. We were just there. All right, so we've got some moves, and they're basically listed here. So game turn 2, Charles IX can be used if it was not in play. That's fine. He's already there. Russia, Boris was not in play. His ruler cannot be used. Use Vasily, who will use a weakened Boris Godunov. Well, I guess, don't weaken Boris, so we're fine. We go to Ahmed the First, which means we get rid of both of these. And that puts us into somebody who is a little better, and he'll have an army. I guess he gets placed immediately because he's not Polish ruler. Polish ruler, you have to spend some cards to bring them into play as the leader. And it wasn't worth it. Okay. Holy Roman Empire, nothing. Polish Lithuanians, nothing. So we're done with that. Now, commander change. Okay. Now, we go through each country and pop off counters that are no longer, that are out of this turn. So this guy's 1 and 2. We're going to just take these guys, the Habsburgs for now. So we get one more, Giorgio Basta. Now, new commanders can be placed on spaces with their own army. Now, this is kind of annoying because, you know, I might want this guy who, well, he's not going to last any longer. So we'll just put him with his army. And we'll do this with each of the countries. Some of them will have kings, and that's fine, except for Poland. Poland can only bring its king into play on impulses, from what I can tell. Again, it's a little vague about, like, is that meant to apply to every ruler? I don't know. So unused rulers went into the bags over, or dead rulers went into the, or dead commanders went into the bags over there. Everybody got their rulers. It's kind of interesting. It shows you know, the national differences there in a nice way. Michael the Brave is gone. Gotta figure out where he goes. He won't have any wooden blocks, so I might be able to get away with one of the smaller bags. Those were awfully tight before. And I guess that's it. Got to be careful putting these into the wooden standees. Unlike plastic ones, which you can kind of pry apart with your fingers and get things in, these kind of skin the counters if you're not careful. And I damaged one already. I like the wooden ones. They look better. But I thought my sticker was in the bad way. So now we're going down to negotiations, and I really don't have the willpower to deal with that right now. Which is a shame, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know what burned me out, but it happens. Okay, to the rest of the beginning of the turn, negotiations phase. All right. Nobody is in a position that they can force peace on. Well, that they can request peace. This is one of the weird things about the game. Peace is not a normal thing. I got a problem. There are mercenaries still on the table, and I think they were supposed to go back. So let me see. First of all, armies return to you know, I don't see anything that says that they go back under the army's return to capital cities. Let's take a look at the mercenary bidding. Well, I gotta figure out where that is, so I gotta go back to the only place the sequence of play is, kind of in the middle of the rules. That comes after negotiations and religious unrest. Yeah. Okay, so that should be soon. I expected it to be. Here's religious unrest. Mercenaries. Okay, so here, this is the brilliance of these rules. Mention something once, not in the section of the rules that you have to do it, and don't refer to it again. In armies return to capital city phase, all mercenary combat units leave armies and counters are placed off board. You know, yay. Glad I remembered, but it's going to be very, very easy to fail, to forget these kind of things. All right. So we got one mercenary here. Did any get knocked off board? I have the feeling more than one mercenary was purchased. We got one here. I think this is mercenary. This is not. So I think just these two go back. And that makes sense. I thought somebody else bought one, but I guess not. All right, going back to the negotiations. So yeah, there's no possibility to come to a white peace or anything. I've mentioned that already. Territory has changed hands. The Habsburgs seized a couple of territories, but these are not Ottoman national territories. There are very few of those, so it's almost impossible for the Ottomans to end this war. I don't know if they'd want to in this circumstance, but they're just screwed no matter what. There's no free, white peace. I've talked about that already. Players could make an alliance, but since there's no state of war, I don't see much advantage to making an alliance with random nations. You can make certain agreements by transferring stuff. Looks like the only territories that you can... So here it says they can make secret arrangements, can coordinate their strategy. Controlled spaces and or fund markers are considered as payment. But then players controlling superpower can remit captured space only if that space is connected to his or her own national spaces. So I think the only things you can remit are captured enemy national spaces. It's not absolutely clear to me. Maybe any gray space can also be handed off. Again, no reason to. It's not like you can really give a great ultimatum here. I guess you could. You could say, wow, I've got a declaration of war card. It actually doesn't say you can't show cards to people, so maybe you could and try to force some kind of negotiation. But anyway, I don't see any reason for that. Then we're at declaring war. Here, you are allowed to declare war on other powers. But again, we're in the same situation as before. Poland's in a kind of neat place where they want to convert religious values of things, maybe up their economy and everything. Let the other countries fight. They're stuck in war. They can't get out of it. There's no way. They're not allowed peace. So we get through that. Now, for some reason, we hit the religious unrest, which is not, I think, well, we'll look. So this is an actual section of the turn. This is the thing that has the conversion procedure within the impulses. It describes what's up with the being the wrong religion, and if you're not the religion of the governing power, you count as heretic. Or if a heresy occurs, which there's no real way, you don't mark something as heretic, so it doesn't become a different religion, though. Okay, so none of this so far has to do with anything to do with this pulse, which means we get to effective heresy, and revolts can happen. So I think we check them now. Okay. Did we do this last time? I think so. Cities, fortified spaces, or fortresses. The number of heretic spaces controlled by a superpower in a certain zone is used as a column in the combat results table. Then the player rolls 2 dice. The number of revolted spaces in that zone is caused. Okay. Swedes. Swedes have no heretic spaces. I think Russians are, I can't remember the order. There it is. Russians are next to check. They have a heretic space. There's an army on it. Does that affect anything? I think the revolt can't happen there. Okay. Because there is an army already there. So I'm going to leave that alone, right? Or am I wrong? Yeah, they don't affect the army, therefore the army would stop it immediately. That puts me to the Ottomans, who have some. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so an 8 or higher will cause some. A 12, that's going to cause 3. Now, revolts are the pitchforks, which are on the other end of this. And who places on the Ottomans? That's got to be looked up. Probably every single time. Okay, the Tsar puts them in the Balkans, which is different. So the interesting thing here is Russia could be the person who's impacted by revolts in here. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So the Russians get to place these, but they've got 3 of them. The effect of revolts is going to be, well, doesn't really make much difference. I am going to put those revolts near the Habsburgs because, like the Poles, I don't particularly want to see the Ottomans hurt worse than they are. So that's the only Ottoman revolts. We go down. Habsburgs. Habsburgs have 2 spaces, which means a 10 or higher. Excuse me. And now the Poles have a boatload, of course. So, wow, they've got a couple of boatloads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. $11 and $8 will be 2 showing up in the Russian area, and those are placed by the Swedes. Well, we don't particularly want these guys to be happy. They can be placed gotta look everything up. I think they can be placed in fortresses. Okay, here it is. It doesn't tell you where they can be placed, but it tells you where they can occur earlier. City, fortified city, and fortresses. Yeah, and any space that is colored. Doesn't really make a difference, but we'll put one over there and one way over here. And then up in the salmon area, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You don't particularly want these kind of messes. And the effect is bad. It's your DP marker goes downhill. So you really need to deal with these. A 9 on 9 is 2 more there. And those two, you know, this is annoying. Player controlling the Holy Roman Empire puts markers in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth red zone. Well, this might not be Poland at some points. The others are by zone only. This is not the Reich. This is not the Balkans. Oh God, no I can't. Oh, this is Kingdom of Sweden. So the Poles get to put these markers. So we want to put these near our army. Put them there. We get to place them on ourselves. I thought it was you place them against a different player, in part maybe because of that. Oh boy, I'm getting fatigued now. Purchasing of mercenaries, and this is once again, remember you can bid a card to do this. If you're not at war, it doesn't seem at all valuable. If you are at war, I'm not sure. Some extra troops might be somewhat useful. They might not. Don't know. It's been kind of difficult to understand the value of cards versus troops. Large part because it's hard to understand the value of prosecuting a war. You know, are you better off just improving your home area, or can you gain more from a war? Now, very obviously, the Ottomans are going to have to fight. The Swedes, we start off kind of backed into a corner, I would say. But we're at war with Russia, and I would rather prosecute that war. But we kind of want to get our troops, our armies in better shape before we do so. So, I don't know, you know. But neither side can end this war until someone walks into the other's territory. And at that point, then it becomes kind of a, well, who won it? You know, do you really want to end the war? I don't know. But okay, I will investigate the cards, see if anybody wants to put a bid. Probably not more than a point. The problems with that is the 1 point cards tend to be your military advantage cards, which might be more valuable than this extra mercenary unit. So it's kind of a hard call as to whether or not you want mercenaries. The Russians bought 1 mercenary. No one else felt they had a card they could expend on one, although the Swedes are a little worried. Having seen the Russians buy one, they considered putting a card for the second round of mercenary play, but they really don't want to afford themselves the loss of the card. They have better leadership here. Screw it, man. You know, if the Russians come that far, and I'm not sure the Swedes are going to launch an attack at all. Okay. So that gets me through that. Now it's strategic redeployment. And that's moving from a capital to somewhere else. Which I don't know how many people really want to do that. The only person who did it were the Swedes to reinforce their army. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe there was a 1 point Habsburg reinforcement too. I left the leaders behind because I formed a notional army without a leader and moved it there essentially. Because I want those leaders in the background in case I have to raise up another force behind the lines. And yeah. In the case of the Swedes, I already have 2 leaders right up at the front. Not sure why I'm doing that, but just because they have so many leaders at this point. And that's going to put me to the player's impulses, where I play the cards, and that is a good place to halt for a bit. So while pawing through the Swedish hand of cards to figure out what I want to do with them, you noticed a reshuffle on the diplomacy card. And said to myself, I bet you there's one on every one. And indeed, I see one here. So I kind of screwed up. Those are supposed to cause some sort of reshuffle. Now, there's some question as to what the rules mean with it, because there's no reshuffle implied when you go pawing through the deck to look. There's none explicitly stated. I feel it's implied. In most games it is. When you go pawing through the deck to find a card, if you pay a fund to grab an event, and that this might, in that case, if you could memorize the order of what cards you have, might end up firing that off. The thing I don't remember is if this sucker fires off when you play it as an ops card, which I did. So I'm going to have to look that up. Because something in my head says that it may only fire if it's used as an event. Like that was stated in there. Again, so many weird little special cases. And a lot of CDGs have this impact where there's some little special thing that you have to look up in the rules or whatever. Honestly, Here I Stand was pretty strong on that, and Sword of Rome. It's one of the reasons I like both of them. I feel they're fairly simple CDGs. But it may simply be that, these... I'm trying to remember what I started with. I don't remember. Obviously, I played We the People way back in the day, and I really hated it. In part because of the combat cards, in part because I didn't feel like I was playing the Revolutionary War. I felt like I was playing Go or something. But anyway, beyond that, one of the things is I found it harder and harder. Even when I was really kind of in my CDG attitude of picking up new ones, because they all had so many different little weird ways of handling maneuver and stuff, but not cards in the same way. But anyway, let's spend some time digging into the rules. And unfortunately, these rules are a pain to access and deal with. The thing is, I'm not sure where the reshuffle is handled. It's not, from what I can see, in the area that mainly deals with the cards, which, is cards drawing section, which is not where you'd expect it, but with this rule set, it kind of is, but maybe it's over here where they talk about the cards. Or maybe they don't talk about the cards in the components. Like, in a normal game, I would expect this part to be in the components section or in a general section about cards, not buried into an action, a part of the sequence of play. I don't know where here we got playing a card. Might be there. That wouldn't be an unreasonable place for it, honestly. I'm not seeing it. And I don't know where the fuck else it might be. But I know I saw something that discussed this in the rules about reshuffle cards. I just don't recall where in the rules. And for whatever reason, you know, this particular rule set is not fixing in my head. The ones that do best for me, honestly, are either the old SPI style rules or in terms of, hey, I know where to find something. Or the rules for the Victory games. Those often I was able to find things in them, just the way they were laid out. And I can't really give a good argument why one way or another. Certainly the numbers may be helpful. But yeah, this is going to take me a little while. And huh? Wait. Superpower card deck. There we go. There we go. I bet you it's here. Unused cards must be reshuffled after the completion of the game turn. Now, so I'm just going to shuffle what's already there back into the deck, and I'm going to look to see if anybody else played one. So there we have our answer, and it's not in an unreasonable place, honestly. What it was hard to find, and I again don't know why. So the ruler's cards here, this just didn't jump out in the same way, and it really should. It's the only thing against it is really the location on the page, which is hard to control. It's not mentioned. When a card with reshuffle inscription is played, what the definition of played is, it isn't here. Now, I'm assuming that will include discards. Certainly played for operations or event makes sense. Do you need those 2 extra words? Yeah, you know, no. I'm kind of glad they're not there. I'm fine with that. But I want to point that out for the kind of people who are used to the kind of precision that's available. I would rather not see even those 2 words bloat. But, yeah. Swedes, I have one card I wanted to point out before I ran into the reshuffle. I saw this. This is a one-time event. Oh, I actually have 2. I have this spy. You can cancel an effect of any event if it was played against your superpower. Personally, I don't know about the against but whatever. It makes sense given what it is. But you can't cancel a red star event. Now, that's kind of a shame because those are the big guys, and being able to blast one of those, and those are the ones that you can paw through your deck and buy if you know the game well. So this could be a really, really powerful card if it could affect them. But instead, how often does somebody play an event that targets you? You know, something like Mercenary Switch Sides, it would work for. But it would not work for this. But this one, if you control all the ports of the Baltic Sea, you gain 5 victory points. This is the kind of thing that kind of sucks to have in the deck without some kind of compendium going forward for it. It's almost like I put it in a similar case as the victory points that you gain in EU when. You know, but those are all written down and you can select them. You know, they're not hidden in a deck of cards. This feels like it's one of the major goals of the Swedes, and really, it's one of a few things that maybe should be mentioned somewhere. Now, one place it could be mentioned is here, the Kingdom of Sweden. They tell you to do the first thing. You got to fix your revolts. Join the Demetriids in the second game turn. Yeah. Don't know how I'm going to be able to do that. Maybe there's a card that allows you to do that. The wording isn't enough to tell me to do that. Is engaged in Demetriads. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. What the fuck is this Demetriads? I know what it is historically, but I don't know what the effect is, and I don't remember seeing anything in the rules that dealt with this. It is not sitting here in the post game, or in the scenario of special rules, which is kind of hilarious because there's only one scenario. The rest are learning scenarios that are one turn long. I have to look in the rule book, so my spreading the cards out to think about them is again foiled. And, it's funny, I'm bouncing between what's frustrating me more, right? My video game is beginning to frustrate me enough that I'm breaking free of it, But now this is fucking annoying me too. Of course, life is always, right now, like, the one thing that I really need to do in life, other than getting another job, is just like, it's been on the burner for over a year and 3/4 or whatever. But I had promised myself I would deal with it after I got my shit back from my lawyer, and I got the shit back that I could, and then I ordered the marriage certificate. No, not the death certificate copies, so that I could deal with that. And I can't even bring myself to dig up the email that will allow me to start, planning for this. I just can't fucking do it. Yeah, didn't I say I was going to try to avoid this kind of shit when I'm doing a review copy, especially one I asked for? Yeah. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for something about Demetriads so that I understand the context of what is that? What is it going to be? So, oh wait, I got Boris still. Yeah, no, he's not here. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to come up, Let's see. Maybe it's under here in the Russian stuff. Doesn't look like it's there. The other place I would think I would get something about it would be here. There's like special rules about nations and such not. These are detailed rules, but that are minor rules, general rules that are of minor states. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be there. That's the one place that there's kind of national specific stuff. And then the leaders, the rulers, are there. But I don't know anywhere else where it talks about these fuckers. Are they something... I mean, I'm assuming that they're an event, to tell you the truth. But if it doesn't tell me... It says, use the opportunity. In second game turn, use opportunity and join Demetriads. Sounds like it's something that's going to fucking be forced, and I don't know of a damn thing that forces this to happen. What is this? Okay, Sigismund. Yeah, you really don't want Sigismund as your leader. Was anybody allowed to have them to begin with? No. So basically, I'm guessing that the Swedes should have spent $1 and gotten a card out, but maybe not, because maybe it's something someone else is expected to do, because we got something similar here. Okay, let's see. When Demetriads begin, okay, well, they haven't. We're not seeing anything there. The Polish. I don't see any discussion of Dmitriev there. The only thing that's talking about them are Russia and Sweden. Now, it's unlikely Russia has a card that forces them to happen, but maybe there's a rule that's missing, or I'm missing it. I don't know. Anyway, I will go back to trying to figure out what the fuck I want to do with the Swedes. Right now, I have no idea, right? I mean, there's like this, I could gain territories that are worth no victory points and fight the Russians, or I could work on my economy and my military capability, which maybe that's just the best. Maybe I just do the military advantage. When I have too big a hand of cards, it's one of the things I like about both Sword of Rome and Here I Stand. The hands of cards are smaller in those games. Sword of Rome especially, I think you have like 4 or 5 cards in your hand. Here I Stand, when you're winning the game, you could end up with, because it has a similar mechanism to this, you could end up with a fair-sized hand, 6, 7 cards. But here, we've got people who aren't really necessarily doing all that well, aren't generating their maximal hands, and, 8, 9 cards in their hand easily, plus specials, so it could be at like 11 cards. That's a pain to cope with. It really is. I think I'd rather more shorter turns with less cards or something, but it's all been kind of balanced so that there are things that happen every turn that you have to deal with and whatever, and you couldn't have them happening at that same rate without messing with the balance of the actions. Mentions Dmitriev. It's a scenario, unfortunately. But maybe, and I've seen this happen in some games, maybe I need to cope with this. So, what do we know about this that makes it Dmitriev, huh? Doesn't look like much. Modifications. Can't play red stars except Dmitriev's from Sweden's deck or the deck of the Polish-Lithuanian, so they can either of them can do it. Okay. Yeah. So, in the second game turn, the player controlling Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth must select them, but cannot exceed card limit. Now, do they start with any money? Because if they don't, they can't. What am I doing here? You know why? Do we have funds or anything? Are we in this? Yeah, I'm not sure I see any funds marked on here, which would, be an equally annoying situation. You must do something that you actually physically can't do by the rules. So again, it's like, okay, you make it up, what? Yeah. But at least we know that they're cards that I probably should have selected. I chose not to. And I'm not sure I mind. I look at what the polls are in here, and I don't really think that Russia is my problem. Screwing with Russia seems like a bad idea. I have a lot of territories to convert and can kind of not deal with that. So, obviously that introductory scenario is meant to throw you into a warlike situation or whatever right away. Oh boy. Well, this is why the turns are so long. Because, I have to follow all these traces, and now I'm really not feeling like playing anymore, right? Like, I'm feeling more frustrated than I was with not playing. Enough that I don't want to think. I catch myself saying, okay, I made my decision on that one card, I'm just going to play it. And, I can't play this way. I have to be able to dissect and figure out, you know, what is reasonable play. Maybe something's changed in me. I think there was more of an attitude of, well, don't know what to do, I'll play this type of attitude in some of these CDGs earlier on. But I definitely feel like, yeah, I can't really just do that. I know that I'm almost certain I want to deal with that one special card. I feel fine with that. But the problem is I don't feel like I can make reasonable decisions for any of the other players because I've expended so much of, you know, whatever angst and internal existential crisis comes up with trying to decide what to play that that I'm going to be in my decision-making mode that has no analysis paralysis at all, which is just, fuck it, I don't give a shit about this anymore, right? And that is not the right way to treat the game. At least I don't think it is. Again, I may have done that back when I enjoyed CDGs more than I do now, simply because, you know, it was kind of like, oh, this is a totally new thing for me, especially these big multiplayer ones. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that's cool. You know, I feel like now I should know what I'm doing, and it just, or maybe I'm just more intransigent in my ways. Okay, so it's morning now, and coming at things without the same frustration. So I just play this card, I don't think, which is, you know, I think I did my thought. I think I came to my decision. I'm good with that. But I'm also feeling like I can make a decision on the next card, you know, on the remaining players. So we move on to the Russians then. And I run into a problem right away. And this is, you know, hey, I'm not about to do this. I'm not able to do it right now. But I get to look at the Cossacks Under Control card for the first time. Now, I've got some rules on Cossacks here. In particular, okay, the Poles have their handling of them. But then under plunder procedure, for some reason, there are a lot of other things. The Tsardom of Russia takes control over Cossacks when player controlling plays the Cossacks Under Control card. And then there's this, the Polish player can regain control of Cossacks in two ways. Military action playing as event-registered Cossacks. I assumed that was if they lost them the other way, not directly from this, but now I'm not so sure. If event Cossacks Under Control is in effect, player controlling Polish-Lithuanian cannot play registered Cossacks. Okay, so that part at least is there. The Tsardom of Russia can recruit Cossack combat units and control siege space. They get a control marker there. Moreover, the player controlling the Tsardom can use Cossack control markers for whatever reason to indicate control of a space in the Russian cultural zone. I'm not sure why you would do that, but, you know, because there are plenty of Russian control markers, and it's not clear to me if you use these, if, like, there's some way you lose that entire Cossack area. Okay, great. That's what I have so far, and this kind of, okay. Well, I've actually got two cards, and I'll look at the second one in a moment. You're allowed to play this card as an event when you achieve box 3 on the Cossacks control track. This is what I thought, and I thought it would revert the Cossacks permanently over to the Russians, but I'm not sure now. You can now recruit Cossack units which are not controlled by the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth during the current game turn. Now, there are two ways of reading that. One is this event makes it so that the Poles don't control the Cossacks for the current game turn. Another is, hey, the Poles can retake the Cossacks, and if they do so, and, you know, and maintain their control, you can't recruit them. I'm not sure which it means. My first reading was this card is only good for one turn. I don't think that's the case because it does have a counter going with it. So I'm going to take that secondary reading from it. To recruit a unit, you spend 1 operational point and it is placed in siege. You can move recruited Cossacks as their own, not as your own, but I think they mean your own. You can gain space control by putting on it the Cossack control marker. Maybe the Cossacks will only convert things to Cossack control, is what they're trying to say there. You can't use them to get Russian control. That's not the way this is kind of worded, especially over here. Moreover, player controlling the Tsardom can use Cossack control markers to indicate control of the space in the Russian cultural zone. It makes a lot more sense if the only spaces that the Cossacks alone capture will receive those. Because, again, there are enough of these markers for the Russians, unless they're going to conquer the board. And there's some potential disadvantage, to the Cossacks controlling something. I'm not sure what it means that they control it. The way this is worded, it makes it sound like, well, they're just part of your control marker mix and use whatever you want, whenever you want. Okay, so then the other one that's of interest is this Kamensky Uprising. Which integrates with these. Khmelnytsky Uprising. I make things up without looking at them. I saw a K, man, and a ski. You can play this card as an event but Cossacks under control is in effect, but not earlier than the 6th game turn, which it's not. Place onto siege space all Zaporizhian infantry units. Hey, that's been in the news recently. With the Khmelnytsky commander and 3 Tatar units with Tukaj Bev commander. From that moment, now there's a Tukaj Bev revolt card as well somewhere, so I don't know. From that moment, you control Cossack and Tukaj Bez's units as your own troops. Okay. So this one I'm free to play. This one, I'd like to do this to get the Cossacks under control. Unfortunately, that would mean playing all 3 of my 3s and this card, which I probably can't do. I probably can't afford to do that. So then the question becomes, okay, how much do I want to play for them and whatever. And then there's who are the Cossacks, who are the Tatars? And I don't remember. So let's take a look. We got green guys here. These must be the Tatars. And this is Sich. That's where the Cossacks would show up. Which to me means these are Cossacks, and that makes sense because the Poles have been using them. Yeah. But yeah, now I gotta go back to the mindset of look at the cards again. But Squirrel, I got distracted by events that didn't seem to make sense, and every time you throw that that monkey wrench into the cogs, I'm like thrown into a different kind of place in terms of my thinking and my capability of moving forward. Every time there's oh my God, this doesn't make sense, what the hell. Now that's particularly troublesome with CDGs. So in a game like Europa Universalis, sure, I might put off reading the events, and it serves the same kind of problem there. but you know what? There's like 3 events per turn. They all happen at a certain time. I'm not making decisions based on them for the most part. So that little section of the game is isolated. Everything else is just straight rules that I've read and understand, or think I do, right? They're the rule book itself. And then I find something in an event that breaks the rules or that makes me think I've got the rules misinterpreted, like I do with these cards or whatever. And it's in an isolated location. Here, it's in the main central phase of the game, and it's all over the fucking place, right? Like, every action that players do, every time that they get a chance to do something, I look at their cards, and there's another chance for me to find that kind of, wow, I wasn't understanding things from the rule book. I think there's sort of a requirement, like for me, for a CDG, it is a much greater harm for a CDG to fuck shit up and not get the rules right. Not get them really, really solid. And, you can't be drawing a card and saying, oh, I've been playing this wrong. Right? You can't be looking at your cards and trying to make that decision and then realize, oh fuck, the whole game is screwed up because I've been playing it wrong, because the rule book led me down a different path than the card does in terms of how things happen. And honestly, I got to tell you, even though it doesn't have that kind of problem directly, Paths of Glory showed that same problem to me, which was my assumptions about the game were wrong and were shown to me by looking at the cards. And that left a really foul taste in my mouth. But here, it's obviously an even, a much worse situation, because you can't understand the rules of the game without looking at the cards and comparing them to the rules. The rules are not written solidly enough to allow you to sit down and expect to play. You really have to kind of, I guess, read all the vaguely important cards, memorize them, understand all their effects, and try to reconcile everything ahead of time. Because it's just that, I don't know. I really wanted to like this. I really did. I was excited about it. But the sort of here I stand type of game, one of the things that's so good about it is that it is fairly simple. You don't have to go through a whole hell of a lot of gymnastics to make your way through it the way you do with, some other games that I've tackled and that I'm trying to do with this. But that card-based, it loses, first of all, it loses that kind of nice, simple game that you can get together and play a tournament type of situation at a con, or you can gather people together, you can explain the rules to them fairly quickly and get them started. They won't do well, but the baseline rules are fairly simple. I think that's a lot of what made Here I Stand and Sword of Rome so appealing, is that you didn't have to understand a whole hell of a lot to be able to play the game correctly. Not necessarily well, but correctly. There aren't a lot of core rules, and the cards don't call them into question. They're well vetted, and everything was done reasonably. The game was developed, I guess is the word I'm looking to see. It was polished. This game is not ready. And should not have been printed in this state. What was my decision on plus cards? So, do I think that they mean for there to be 2 different ways that they can work? One, if you play them alone, where they allow you an extra point. That's the big question. That's what I did, and that would be my way of preventing myself from breaking the rules or changing the rules in mid-game based on this. And that is kind of how this is worded. In the case of playing one card with a plus sign, not a second card, after using operations points, the player can move one of these things. Elsewhere, there's playing two cards, and if you play two cards, one of them has a plus sign. The player has at his disposal as many operations points as the sum of the card's value. Playing the two cards, the player can spend sum of operations points to move one of four markers. The marker can move as many boxes as the sum of operations points. Yeah, I don't know. Now I see yet another option, which is if you play the two cards, like looking at this as two different ways as written. One of the ways is play the plus sign, you get that one bonus one if you just use these ops points and don't play another card. If you play two together, the two cards can be played only as operations points, which to me means, hey, I should be able to do all this stuff. Player has as many ops points as the sum, but they can either spend those ops points as one combined activity all at once, which could get you fast movement with very little attrition, which seems weird, but whatever. Or you can spend all the points on the tracks. That's yet another interpretation that I see as possible from it. I'm going to go with the more flexible. You can use as many of the points as you like for anything, including moving the tracks. Moving the tracks doesn't seem incredibly valuable to me right now with the Ottomans. They have bigger fish to fry right now. I want to move in and attack this. I didn't want to use my 1-point card for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build, I think, an army unit of some sort. The only things that cost one are these. I'm going to combine units. So these two turn into one. And this goes back. This doesn't necessarily make my army stronger, but it makes it a little smaller, which is probably good. I have a huge manpower, and, well, I guess we'll move into there. So I built a unit, I move, I take a hit. I don't mind taking the hit on one of these, I guess. I don't know. And now I'm in a position to fight D here, whoever he is. Withdrawal does not require a commander. Interception does. I don't want to fight. Hey, what the hell? Oh. Let's leave a different garrison, a full-strength garrison in place, and fall back. And let the siege again. And because I played that alone, I get to move a marker. I'll just keep moving my military to try to regain my power. All right, time to think about the Habsburgs. And obviously the first card of each turn is going to be the harshest of them all, because that's when I'm going to discover the most incongruities. Incongruencies? I don't know. I got an interview to do today but I think I can get through at least one card from each player. This is all making me... So I'm sort of growing fatigued with my video game. Finally, several months. But this is so painful, it's making me actually start desiring to go back up and play Esper Nestling, which has really been kind of a pain in the ass for me, because the NBS 3.0 system just is... It's not being as good as I remembered it being. It's feeling a lot more tedious, and it's a lot of work, but, you know, at least the rolls are solid in it, right? I have an interesting thing I could do with the ruler's disease. This is what I thought it was going to be used for. To play on other people, kill off a good ruler, whatever. And it can be used that way. It turns out it may be more valuable to kill off your own bad rulers. And wait, there's like a way... Oh, shit. Now I can't remember. So yesterday I discovered there's a rule that you can make everybody die. How was that? Right? Oh, shit. Now I don't remember that. You know, get commanders changing. That's not it. Fuck. Palace Coup. You play an operational point card with a plus sign. Before any action, ruler card is flipped on its backside or replaced by successor. Ah, yes. So you could... Right. And the Russians could have gotten... Well, the Russians were fine. They had a ruler dies. The Ottomans could have gotten rid of the ruler they did not want on the first turn by playing a plus card. And that might have done them some good. Who did they miss because of that? Murad. Who... No, Mehmed? I think Mehmed. Yeah. Who is definitely a little better, but I don't know if he's enough better to have blown a regular card on. Or a ruler's card. But what I'm thinking of here is I could play this card to make Ahmed weaker, because Osman is not available on turn 2. So if I kill Ahmed now, he would still get his son. You know, it's not going to change the effects of anything with any of the other leaders. This is very much a here I stand type thing, as opposed to... And there, you know, you've got like one heir or something like that. You don't have this big stack of rulers. Here, the big stack of rulers feels kind of like the Europa Universalis Empires of the Middle Ages type thing, where you've got a big enough period of time that using fixed rulers at certain times feels kind of wrongish to me. I know it's an option in EU, but... I never play with it because it feels wrong. It feels like the effects of the prior ruler should, and how they decease and whatever, should impact who the next ruler is. And, you know, revolutions and stuff like that should be able to happen. Neither of those two games, which use similar systems, really handle it correctly. So I shouldn't be too fixated on that. Like, my feeling is, you know, look, if Ahmed died now, if he actually died, and then Osman wouldn't even happen necessarily. It might cause a succession crisis, or it might cause a brother to take place, or whatever. So, you know, there might be other people, although they probably killed off all their brothers. But the circumstances are different. Now, the game kind of avoids that by not letting you kill them off until the heir is ready to take place and whatever. But the idea of just weakening rather than moving to the next heir could be of some value. Now, is it worth blowing a 3-point card for? Probably Probably not. Probably not. It's more of a spite move, and I feel like I've got the Ottomans in a bad enough place right now that, it's not like I need this little extra edge by weakening them next turn, and it's not like that little extra edge is better than my 3-point card, right? At least in my assessment of it, that the edge that I get out of weakening a ruler is not going to be as good as what I can get off of playing a 3-point card and doing that. It shouldn't be, when I look at Here I Stand or Sword of Rome, each operation point should be very valuable, but I'm finding that maybe they're not so valuable in this game. It's hard to tell. If you want to do military stuff, they are very important, but it is a 3-point card, which can do something like this. Of course, I think this can only be done once the 30 Years' War is in play. But, yeah, I mean, spending a single a slightly better ops point card or whatever, it just doesn't feel like it has that kind of, the military situation isn't so fluid as it feels like it is in Here I Stand, in terms of like being able to rush up and hit somebody. Maybe I'm misreading something, but it just feels that way to me. I don't feel any kind of lock-in of, oh yeah, I definitely want to do this, And these other options, in general, aren't that valuable. But what you can do with a 3-point card can be. You can grab a fund, whatever that's worth. I at least understand that it's something I get to save, It's not like, I don't know, I move a space and take attrition. Yeah. So I think it's really unlikely that I use it for that. But I wanted to point out that, yeah, you could kind of plink at someone and cause minor... So it does a couple of things. It weakens them for the next turn so that, maybe you're in a better position for fighting them. But it also weakens them for the next turn, which is a big deal. Like, you're doing more harm to them than you're doing good for yourself. But it just doesn't rise to the 3-point level as far as I'm concerned. The 3-point card just seems too valuable to use for something else. But maybe I'm wrong. Again, I could get a fun marker, but, well, I'm allowed to hold 3 with them, so, continue prosecuting my war against the Ottomans, but I don't really want to get close to them until I play this. There's no counter for this one, but the military of the Ottoman is reduced by 2 full levels. That's goes from 1 column right to 1 column left. That's a pretty potent thing. And yeah, there was a point within this period where the Ottomans went from being maybe not quite as good as the Western powers in terms of military capability, but certainly right up with them, close to them, and their reputation was probably still higher, but also just way ahead of the Russians and the Poles in terms of the technology and the soft tactics and whatnot, and effectiveness, to really falling down to their same level. And then when you start counting in the leadership and morale value considerations the Poles had during this period, the difference would become apparent. And, they were pretty close to each other. I don't think that would have been accurate at the earliest part of this game, but okay. But now, certainly the Poles are ahead when you take all considerations into mind. Speaking of which, it's up to the Poles, the people who are not at war and are pretty happy with where they're at, actually. The Poles start clearing some of their problems out. I'm kind of torn, do I want to play my special cards and just get them out of the way so I don't have to think? But, I want to do this no matter what. So playing that seems reasonable. And we'll swing back up. And, fighting my way through that first round of cards, the first look at a bunch of new cards, yeah, that's enough to drive me away for a while again. Swedes again, and you know, I feel like getting economy into better shape is important. And one way to do that is to move my iron ore up. So I'm going to spend this. I don't think I'm going to make this ever in the game. And if I come close to it, you know, the iron ore will give me funds that I can go hunt it back down after a reshuffle. So let's take a look. This is, oh shit. I thought I saw the iron ore had a rules reference on it. This is in these special tracks here, right? No, not there. Maybe here. Looks like it's there. Yeah, so we got problems. It goes back in the funds gaining phase to get that amount of funds. Now, I don't remember there being a funds gaining phase. Ah, there it is. Ah, okay, makes sense. So yeah, we'll just move that forward. The main reason being, I just don't see much value to conquering stuff. Now, obviously, there's a big pile of victory points available for me from that one card if I capture every port on the Baltic Sea. That includes Danzig, which is a pain in the royal ass. And even if it didn't, it puts me at war with Russia, Poland, and the Habsburgs. Historically, yeah, they did it in terms of being at war with all of them. I don't think they got Danzig. In fact, I know they didn't get Danzig during the period of the game. I don't think they ever did. So, yeah. All right, onward. This with their Cossack track. And, you know, this is beginning to feel like some of those minimalist CDGs. I have one in mind here. I actually think it's down here, even though it shouldn't be. Well, 13 days is one of the options. The other one that's even more minimal is this 1955, which got a little bit less buzz. Both of them feel like somebody does something, you just reverse it, you know, you back and forth. And that's what's happening between Sweden and between Poland and Russia with the Cossacks. Now, Poland has more cards and is going to win that fight. So maybe I shouldn't want to do it, but I've got the Cossack control capability. This also plays towards it, but I didn't want to play this because, well, I can't play that because it's not until like turn 6, which is towards the end of the game. So I figure I'll spend the points for that. The main thing, though, again, I'm just not seeing any reason to perform military operations. I feel like Russia and Sweden are going to be at war for the entirety of the game because neither one has national territory near the other. The Russians were closer to Swedish territory. I mean, yes, the Swedes can get in there, but unless the Swedes push this war, they're not going to get the chance of Russia surrendering at any degree at all. So that, and then for the Ottomans, I played a big card, the Crimean Tatars, in order to perform the siege, and it actually went okay. I got a roll that succeeded in, you know, a split value. So that puts me down to the Habsies. Here's the Habsburg hand, and this is kind of painful to me. So I got these, which can get me funds for a 1-point card. Now it's a 1+, which means the way I'm playing it, I could boost something and take the 1 point. Okay. or I could play it with another card and move a lot of economic, well, policy markers forward, which is appealing. All of that's appealing. But I want to prosecute this war. I want to get out of this war. I want to maybe capture some spaces, but mainly I just want to be at peace so I can do those cool things without, feeling worried. Now, I've emasculated the Ottomans to a large extent, but I'd like to follow up. So my thought is I'd like to move into here, 1, 2 to convert the space, and then, I don't want to pay a 3-point card, so 2 sounds good. So I look at my cards, and I got a couple of 2s. Mercenaries demand payment. I don't mind playing this because the Ottomans have no mercenaries, so that's probably what I'm going to do. Letter of Majesty allows me to play the 30 Years War card, which maybe I go out and buy. Maybe I don't. Maybe I hold this card, whatever. Got the Towards Absolute Rule. I think I'd like to play this as ops points, to tell you the truth. But again, I don't want to play a 3-point card which have other values. So I can play the fund, just grab funds with it, which honestly, this is kind of cool. I can use it as a pure break even, or I can move my economy marker a box to the right, but hurt my domestic policy and get a fund. That's what I did last time. I can play it as a break even. Playing it for the funds card. Is there anything else I can really do with it? Not really. But I think there are some cases where, like, you could discard a 3-point card for something. I don't remember them offhand. Maybe in the negotiations or something along those lines. Definitely want to keep this reaction. Mercenary desertion, mercenaries demand payment, don't matter. This I think I'd like to hold. So yeah, I guess I play this because it doesn't hurt me to play. These guys, just generate a fund. That may be worth more than the 1-point card. Remember, a fund is worth 3 ops points. So I'll play this and do this. 1, that gets rid of this. 2, I convert it. And we're assuming that's not Roman Catholic, but we got to check it. Szeged. Actually it is. And I think that's it. We're looking at coming down this way, gathering up more troops. Now, gotta check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We take another hit. Ugh. Painful. I moved 1 space. That's one reason to move more than 1 space at once, to not take so much attrition. But again, there's like the card balance and everything, and I should be able to get there and get my battle underway. And then to the Poles, I'm not going to come back for them. They're going to clean out some of their unrest situations. Well, I kind of lied. I really wanted to talk about this. So yeah, I played a plus card so that by my interpretation I get to move this. Likewise, the Swedes played a plus card. I decided I got nothing better to do. If I can force the Russians out of the war, I can focus more on the nothing betters that I'm doing. So I pushed my way up here. No attrition on that because I'm a little under. I think it's 12, right? If it's 10, I'm pissed because I built my... Yeah, it's 12. And because it's a plus card, I got to push my little marker there by my interpretation. Torn as to whether I want to play this reaction card against the Swedish turn. Since I've been playing the Russians right after I actually notice it, I have a reaction card. Those are always problematic for me in CDGs. With some of them where there aren't a lot of cards, sometimes I leave one face up to remind me. Generally, I wouldn't want to do this. It would push them back to here, so they couldn't just use 1 point to engage me. I don't know if it's worth it, though. It's really, I'm spending a 2-point card to take 1 point away from them, and it's a 2+ card, so I don't think it is. So I will consider again. I'm thinking about trying to funnel a bunch of troops up into there. Now, if I play, I have a number of choices. I could play City Revolt. Might be useful in trying to get a city back, or at least cause problems if I lose one. This is a combat card. This one, if I'm winning the war, I can get a bonus out of it. It doesn't look like I'm going to win the war. So I'm going to put, I don't have as much optimism as I appear to have in my hand. Remember, I can't play both of these at the same time. So if I play this, and I play this with it, that would give me 5 points, all of which, or any of which, I can use over on here if I wish. But instead, what I'll do is create another army. I want to build good units. What are the units that disappear at the end of my turn? The units that disappear at the end of my turn are one of these two. They're these crappy 1/4s. Taking them into battle might not be a bad thing, but they're sort of like a feudal levy or something. I mean, huge manpower, not a lot of combat capability. So if instead I spend 1, 2 to put these here, that's the plus. Maybe 3, 4. I only have 5 total. 1, 2, 3. I move them up to here. Now that is, if I want to move this whole thing, I think that's a new movement for attrition points. So 4. I'm going to move into here. These don't connect. Harsh. Okay. Let's see. We do something different then. What did we do? We bought 2 of these. Let's see if we want to do this. How much do I have here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. God damn it. See, that'll hit me with an attrition. So I can't really pull back. I gotta rethink. I thought I was next to it. I should have known I wasn't. I went not straight towards Sweden, but towards things I could capture. And now I'm kind of paying a price for that. So yeah, let me rethink what I'm doing. Do something significantly less dramatic. I'll play this 2+ card. Move this up as my bonus. I'll move here. That's an attrition. Take that on these poor mercenaries. And that's that. I don't think the Swedes care about that, but let me just check to see if they have a reaction that applies. Nope. All right. And that covers my city. That is probably the best I can do. Let's attempt their siege again, playing a big 3-point card, building some more troops here. I've got a reaction. I've got to remember I have that might help me. It went poorly, i.e. I lost 2 units, boxcars, and then on to the Austrians. So it's time to make a tough call for the Austrians, whether or not I want to get rid of the Letter of Majesty. Now, Brno, Praha, these have to be over here. No, where's Prague? Oh, Brno, Prague, right? No, that's Breslau. There's Prague. Yeah, so this opens up a whole bunch of problems in the Reich. Technically, I should be playing it around here. Yeah, it's the Bohemian Revolt, which is awfully close to where everything is. I think I'm going to play this for points because I really don't want to play a 3-point card, particularly, for various reasons. So I'm going to move 1, 2, and there is a... Let's pile some pieces because we're getting crowded here. There is an attrition event for this. Should have some mercenaries with me. Let's get rid of another one of these. What is this guy? Put myself here. Now, I'm not at war with them. I can't take. They're allied with me. I can't take their territory. But did I want to play Heavy Rains? During opponent's influence, when he activates an army attempting to move or siege, he loses 1 operation point. The army can only move 1 space. That actually sounds kind of nice to me. Although, that's a siege attempt, man. Yeah, I just can't afford it. I can't afford to hire a wizard to call up Rains for me. Because I'd like to win the siege. Alright. And that puts me to the Poles. Don't know what they're doing. I chose to start building an army to go deal with this because my other forces, it would cost me so much to move them around the board. Usually building armies is more expensive than moving armies, but no, not in this system. And you know, kind of makes sense that you'd be able to levy some forces close to the action that you need, rather than marching across land, because the expense of maintaining an army on the hoof was quite high. On the other hand, the expense of maintaining one in an area was also kind of high. There's not really a maintenance cost to the armies, and I find that a little disturbing in terms of, like, you know, the historical balance or whatever. That you don't have to pay for the army to maintain. But there you have it. That brings me around to another, and I think I've played enough. I'm still happy, which is a good thing. I'm not frustrated walking away, which means next time I come down, I'll be happier than if not. The Swedes are going to play a card that'll allow them to launch their attack. This is one of those kind of weird cards. There are a fair number of these where you can do something really dicky to other players. Like here, you can move their economic DP marker 3 boxes to the left, which, you know, that's pretty potent. But it doesn't really impact too much their capability of doing things. Maybe late in the game, if somebody looks like, or whatever, if somebody looks like they're about to win or they're running away with it, these are worth it. But normally, I would say, hey, use these to help yourself. And in this case, I can help myself because of the way I'm interpreting the rules by boosting that and moving into there. However, I gotta look through the Russian cards, see if they have something that's gonna prevent this advance. I'm gonna do it. Now, there's stuff that's not really covered in here, in the rules or anywhere else. For example, I've declared I'm going to move this into here, as my first movement point. Well, this card says play on the very beginning, play on an army beginning its movement until the end of the impulse. The player controlling it must spend 1 operation point more for each entered space. Now, I assume I have to move at least 1 space, if possible. Like, I can't just say, oh, screw it then, I'll use my 2 points somewhere else. Which means, I had to declare I would go into here. Was this worthwhile? I don't know. The Russians lost a card, and a plus card at that, to play for this event. Now, they're spies. I could spy on that difficult march. Ooh, I could cancel an event if it was played against my superpower. This is a big deal, though. A fucking 3-point card to try to get one operations point back. Not going to happen. I was trying to give you an idea of, the kind of things that are going on in terms of decisions. Hey, do I want to play this reaction? Sure, I could spy on the terrain, essentially, but that would be a really expensive use of that card. Hate where they're at. They're not going to succeed in this siege, but chances are they wouldn't anyway. So I'm playing the Sultan grows in power for its event, which increases my card draws unless things go badly again. And that leaves me with very little left. Basically, something that I can maybe screw with this army attacking me. Otherwise, I just don't have much left. The Austrians are playing this, taking the extra bonus pip to try to attack. Hey, might as well. So I'll cancel that out. And they have to... So, again, this is worded... play during opponent's impulse when he activates an army to move or siege attempt, he loses 1 operations point. Well, I have none, so I can't change my decision or whatever. This one's much clearer than the last one in terms of what it impacts. And we'll continue whatever the hell we're doing with the polls, trying to clean stuff up. I have a situation where maybe I won't play... the war. I may not play this because I have a fund to pay for it, right? And therefore I don't pay much of a penalty for that 3-point card. Of course, a 3-point card for funds is a wash, so whatever. This one I could play for its points, and it places a rebellion on an army, but I happen to have a 1-point card which suppresses the mutiny. So essentially I could replace the expense of losing a 3-point card with only losing a 1-point card. Might have to... I might be playing over more impulses, but I don't think that matters to me. As it stands, though, I don't really think I want to play any of those big cards yet, because they're kind of save bait, although I think I'm going to keep the war with Persia. So I'll move this, which is a tiny little army, 1, 2, to here. I get a plus, which I'll put on my card drawing capabilities, assuming I've got the rules right, and that flips me over to the 5th round. I don't keep track past 5. I just like to have an idea of how far into the turn I am. I think I can do another round. Often happens in a CDG. You don't really, none of your cards are ones you want to play, right? I've got a couple of battle cards that'll be really, really useful if I get to engage with the Russians, if they don't withdraw. I've got this bribe in the city, which allows me to take the city very easily if I had a fund marker. No... Well, it's not that easily. So the current siege level of it with a garrison, with a 2-point garrison, would be 3 fund markers. I'm not going to have that. So maybe that's not an unreasonable card to play. And then I've got 3-point cards. 3-point cards are so valuable, I kind of don't want to play them. Now, I've tried to run the jump here so that I can actually take the city. But I'm going to obviously have to play cards that I don't want to for what I don't want to play them for, basically. That is the one that does me kind of the least good. I don't like playing it at this point. What can I do with 2 points? I can build troops. But I'm going to do my movement first in case the Russians have another nasty in their hands. Unfortunately, I put them face up. Do they? They do not. So now the Russians have the, and I've got 2 points left on this card. The Russians have the option of running away. Withdrawal before, that army can withdraw before, this is a good question. First of all, there's no attrition for withdrawal, but there's this special losses after withdrawal, which did I have a battle where I withdrew and didn't take the losses? I don't know. So let's look at our cav numbers here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cav. The Swedes have none. Wow. So we can withdraw with no cost, and I'm not sure the Swedes are going to be able to take anything. So I indeed am going to fall back. I'm going to leave the garrison there. Garrisons kind of don't hurt me. And let the Swedes in without fighting a battle. So that puts these here. Okay. That means the Swedes have 2 more points. What can I do with 2 points? I'll build some more navy. Right now I'm not matched with the Danes, and it's possible the Danes might come in or something. I feel more threatened by that than anything else. I can't immediately siege, and I use a big 3-point card. But I wanted to hold my other cards. On to the Russians. Now, what the Russians want to do is somehow mess with that Swedish army. I don't know if we have a way to do it. I don't want to fight them. Although, honestly, I probably wasn't that bad fighting them. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Facing 3, 6, 12, 15. So it would be a significant difference. We would probably have lost the battle. We have worse leadership. We have that optimism card, though. Do we want to fight instead of retreating? Are we going to be manly about this? You know, our army's there for a damn reason. We have these optimism cards. Okay. I don't know what the order of card play, and we haven't seen a real battle. So playing cards in a battle. The active player gets to play first, or must play first. Then the inactive player, and then other inactive players can support only the inactive player. Not sure why, but whatever. This one, that gives us a column shift to the right, so instead of being on the 15 table, we go all the way up to the 18 table. This other one, because of the way the sequence is written, this is one I would like to play after I see the die rolls, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. So during a land battle resolution, after dice are rolling, select 1 die and add 1 to the result. So we're going to have that as well. Now, facing these things, boy, I want to withdraw now. The Russians have optimism. They have a couple of them. So I can only play one. Nobody really wants to... The Swedes aren't doing well enough to worry. Play if you're an engaged inactive player, you get 1 column shift to the right. Even if you lose, you do not have to leave the space. The attacker must retreat as if he lost it. That's kind of a potent card. So for us, we were looking at 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we definitely wanted to stay with that card. So I'm going to take that die, and the Swedes are rolling. What does the 3-liter mean? Like, I want to add 1. It's not right, though. It's die rolls that are under the leader roll count as the leader roll. That's what it is. Okay, so we roll. The Russians roll a 4 and a 2. Those are going to stand. The Swedes roll a 2 and a 3. I'm going to up that 3 to a 4 because the 2 gets up to a 3. Okay. And we're looking at, for Russians, a 6. They do 1 casualty on the Swedes. I think all the Swedish units are the same. So just flip one of them good infantry over. Why did I bring no cav? For the Swedes, they roll a 7 total, which is going to do 4 losses to the Russians. Now, this would normally force the Russians out. But the optimism prevents that. Now, geez. You know what? The Swedes want to take this space. It's the only way they get anything here. I'm going to spy and cancel that. This is before the die roll. I had to do it. So that was a 6. It would still cause the same casualty. So I canceled their card out with my reaction card. This is a lot of firepower expended by both sides for this. So now the Russians have to retreat, because we really didn't want the Swedes retreating. They would, I think, be taking cav impact from that. So now after the battle, okay, the sum of combat values of each engaged army is 12 or more. It wasn't. Okay. If the active player loses the battle, his or her army must move back to the space. If the inactive player, he must move into a space controlled by the superpower or onto a terrain point. 1 unit can stay as garrison. Ah, shit. I probably had an extra strength point for that garrison unit there. I don't think it mattered. If an army, okay. If an army retreats using trail, 1 combat unit suffers an additional loss. So yeah, I don't think there's any loss after retreat. Withdrawal would have caused me no losses because I have the same number of cav units. Suffers a loss where there is no cavalry on either side. Yeah. So withdrawal is more painful than fighting, which is a little odd because there were pursuits that were of some importance. I'll fall back to there, leave him to take that siege, and now we're going to the Russian turn for real. And that didn't work out terribly well for the Russians, but they did make the Swedes spend a whole lot of card power. A frustrating place where I don't know what I should do with my Russians. I'm definitely outgunned over the Swedes now, right? I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the Swedes lost a grand total of 1 off theirs. So they're, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, they're on a weaker column at this point as well. But we don't want to attack. So what the hell do I do with my cards? That's really the problem. I'm kind of just going to be waiting and hoping the Swedes don't take their fortress. If they do, maybe I could screw with it, but probably not. I'm going to hold on to this. I think I'm going to play this 3-point card to move Cossacks, which seems like a crazy thing to do. I'm involved in this big battle or something. Shouldn't I be building forces, arranging something? Nah, I can't see any value to it. And because I played it as ops, this gives me 2 DP economy marks, which is getting me up towards there. Now, here's the thing. Simply moving this here by the rules doesn't trigger an effect, but I think it does. I think whenever you go in there, the track says something different than the rules. The rules are kind of just not say anything about when you move that due to an event card or something. But I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. All right. Ottomans have to pass. They're out of cards. So onward. Kind of nice if there was a spend a fund, draw a random card. That might be extreme in terms of impact or whatever, but it would give you some kind of savings beyond the whatever cards you could hold. I don't know. Again, it just feels like I should be able to do something still. I'm pinned down. I'm unable to do anything. I'm unable to react to the enemy in any way, which feels completely unrealistic if I've got an army in the field. Armies don't just sort of say, well, you know, a lot of economic deals were going on back home. Not going to react. I do get the interception chances for whatever that's worth. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of the key issues I have with CDGs. They're hard to believe in some cases, which is why I kind of look at the Here I Stand Sword of Rome as sort of fun games, not the kind of things that I'm willing to put the kind of effort that I've had to put into to get these rules, into a working condition. I don't see them as particularly, deep historical analysis. They're more games than simulations in a lot of ways. And, yeah. All right. They just don't have the kind of scope that like an EU has, right? At least I know the Ottomans don't have any cards. That's helpful. I don't have any combat cards either. My army's a little chewed up. What the hell's up with that shit? Oh, attrition. All right. I would like to grab a fund marker, but they kind of screwed me over last turn by taking... Yeah, I'm going to have to siege anyway. Yeah, well. Oh no, this is my buddy. All right. I don't know what else I'd do with my points by funds. I'll move this. Flip me a additional card marker, I guess. That's the wrong one. Where the hell's the right one then? This is columns. Ah, there we go. They're a different color. Okay. And then this goes back. That's the plus. This comes in here. No reaction. I think anybody could play a reaction to screw with my movement, but nobody really is that worried about how far the Habsburgs are. They have a lot of points here, you know, they have a lot of their possible fortified cities, but that's not contributing a whole hell of a lot of points. So what the hell? Let them be. We can take them on in the 30 Years' War. Put that there. I'm actually gonna separate these two. So have the same card in the same place. There's a little bit of stiffness to the cards, so they may not interleave as well as you'd like. And do I have to fight? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cav. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have the cav advantage, so I could withdraw if I want, which I may want to do. Let's look at points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 with a leader disadvantage. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to be awfully close. He has a card advantage on me, which means he's likely to win. However, well, I'm not going to be able to siege the city anyway, so I will pull back with no losses. We've been successful. This is Michael's Revolt. I don't know if it is. Where the hell's Army D? Like, I think I screwed up. Yeah, I screwed up. I moved Army C's units into the main army instead of Army D's units. Oh, I'm sure I had 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I had to take an attrition. And I'll take that on my allies. And that puts me to the polls, and I think I'm running out of gas, so we'll just do them and stop. See what happens here. So I got to figure out what a rebellion marker looks like. I think it's these guys, gun crossed with halberd. I'm going to play this as a card, which means as an ops card, which means I get a rebellion on one of my 2 armies, and it's selected at random, not 3 because this one's too small. So A is odd. Okay, so Army B is going to get this. Now, I can't really put this on here. So I'm going to put it over here, but I don't know if I'm going to fucking remember it. In order to do the little cuteness where I play an event card to get rid of it. Now I got 3 points. One is going to be to move into here and take this out. I don't know what to do with the other 2, you know. I got nothing real good. So I will build some additional infantry. We'll put it up in Vilna for a 2-point card. And that kills that off, being a special card. Now we go to turn 6, and yeah, just playing 1 round wiped me out. But there were a couple of battles, or battle attempts, which we haven't seen much of. Betty. Combat table to this, I think Sword of Rome had a more similar combat table, but I don't really recall. Here I Stand definitely used buckets of dice. I think there was something a little bit more twisted in Sword of Rome from what I recall. This has sort of, you know, hey, you've got a certain column and a certain quantity of losses. I actually find that there's, again, for a game that's so light in terms of its historical treatment and whatever, it's not going to be one hell of a simulation, and buckets of dice kind of works nicely. However, in order to incorporate the specifics of the type of leadership rules that this game uses, this probably is generating a better type of result. You know, a single column instead of like adding dice or whatever. I don't recall what Here I Stand does. I know that the combat, you know, there's something exciting about rolling a bunch of dice and getting that big span of possible results. But it's not, you know, it's not like the detail in that you could see in some kind of well, for example, in EU, which uses an Empires in Arms style combat system where, you know, you figure out the morale of the forces and you do multiple rounds of combat with different technology levels going against each other and whatever. That's really a nice detailed level. And this is, I think, fine. I just have this sort of, I have a sort of predisposition towards the buckets of dice with the lighter games, I guess. I don't know why. It's easy and simple, you know, Britannia style, right? Okay, here it is, early Sunday morning, but my depression has overcome my anxiety, or my addiction, and slept most of the day. Didn't play that much, read a lot, but we're on the Swedes here, and this is sort of the obligatory, hey, let me get something in, you know, more than any kind of real pull. I'm watching fucking videos instead. It doesn't make a difference. I'm still sitting in my damn chair. Okay. So I've got a siege underway. I don't have the funds to play this as an event, but I can play it as the card. I've also got this diplomacy, which makes a good card to hold. I'm allowed to preserve both of these cards, but I've gone so far out of my way, I want to actually capture this location, right? Which may not be an easy task, because it's fully garrisoned. Now, if I had 3 funds, I could play this and just grab it, but I don't, so I'm going to have to get kind of lucky here. I don't have enough troops to do an assault. I'm one unit short. I guess I'll play this for its 1. One question one might want to have is whether or not they want to play the reshuffle. I could look at the quality of my cards and make a decision based on that, and that might be a wise idea, although there's a good chance that I'm going to play both of these anyway. Let me take a peek at them, see if there's a high point value to the cards, because if there is, I may well want to reshuffle the deck. Which point value is not given in this game. Something you'd have to calculate for yourself if you want to know it for this kind of thing. It didn't look like a terribly valuable set of points. So I'm going to do the siege. I've got 1 point that I don't know, you know. I might as well grab another unit because there's not much to do with a 1 point card. And I get to boost something because it's a plus card, and that's how I'm reading this. I get to roll 2 dice. If they're both 3s or under, I'm not going to get the city on this roll, but I might come close. I do. I take no losses, and I destroy the garrison. But, again, it's not good enough for me to take the city overall. If they had left a weaker garrison in place, I would have the city. So I'm going to have to play that reshuffle anyway. You know, at least the way I play this is problematic, but it's sort of an issue for anyone, I think. There's this exploration and colonization of Asia. Now, I know that I played it just for points, but I could see losing track of that, and there's not an easy way to record that. This counter could have had 2 sides to it, one that allows you to play the points and one that doesn't, and that when you play this card, it'll flip that counter. Of course, then you'd have to have a reset at the end of each turn for that. I'm allowed to hold 2 cards, which I may just do because I'm not really impressed with my capability to fight against the Swedes. I got my ass handed to me last time. Of course, I ate up a lot of their cards, and I may be able to beat them. You know, I don't know. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14. You know, it's probably not worth it. But I do have to play a card. And this is kind of troublesome because I have this City Revolt, which could do neat things, right? As an event, but I also have this Optimism. So, you know, if the Swedes take that city, I may want to revolt it and take it back. On the other hand, if I'm defending, this is a useful card. Not having to leave the space. I don't know if I cheated because I'm here. How did I end up there? Did I fuck up? Maybe. I'm really not sure. Like, I may have retreated even though that card gave me an exemption from that. Which was the whole reason I played it, but it's so easy when you're fighting your way through. And when you're, you know, facing a game for the first time anyway, but also with the video and everything, it's very easy to make mistakes like that. In which case, oops, that sucks. Like, I made the decision to fight based on that card, the fact that I wouldn't be undergoing a siege, and I think, or with a retreat, and I think that I got fucked by it. I think I screwed up. But I don't know, you know, because it's been so long. I'll leave things as they are, but yeah, I think I fucked up. So what the hell can I do with my points? Well, not much. I have a 3-point for Cossacks under control. I don't know. Can I play 2 of these cards together? 2, 3, 2. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Okay, that's not there. When the marker is in the 3 box, yeah, to move the marker, must play an operations, yeah, you can't combine. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm fucking up so much, I don't even know what to do. A 2-point plus card on its own could build a colony. I suppose the best thing I can do, and I'll play this, is because if I can't fucking remember, I might as well. And I'll play that one. Although that doesn't give me anything. This would give me an economy marker, but the economy doesn't actually help me. So a 2-point card gets me this, which I will put in Army B. Actually, I could put it in Army A. Give myself more forces. And I'll get rid of that. And yeah, I know, things are getting slower. Have to pass? Don't know. Can't pass. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play it as operations points, spending a fund to negate the bad effect of that. I want to conduct my siege. I don't know what else I want to do. Let's do the siege first. We got a decent leader there. I got a bunch of 3-point cards. That's all right. So we split the difference there. We'll take it on these guys. And this is gone, but wait. No, we've already succeeded in this siege. What the fuck? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. All right, back that up and try to figure out what the hell I'm doing. Okay. I mentioned this, but it looks like it's impossible for, or nearly, for the Turks to surrender. Let's look at the diplomacy rules here. This is them, right? If a superpower is at war and loses a minimum of one national space. So there are a couple of national spaces, I guess. They've got this. I think that may be the only one. That's the only national space. So as long as the Austrians don't take that, the Turks can never surrender. On the other hand, Istanbul, is their capital. So they're not as hosed as someone who actually loses their capital, but you couldn't be in this situation. Your capital is going to be a national space. But it does mean there's no cards, nothing. So the Turks are just going to be put into this hellish position until and unless they get something like a diplomacy card or something that allows them to surrender, or the Austrians decide, I don't want to be at war with you anymore. I'm still having a hard fucking time figuring out what the Austrians might want to do. They might want to move the domination of the Reich. Now, I had a card, didn't I? Something had a card that had something to do with the Letter of Majesty, which allows the 30 Years' War card. But I didn't feel like I was ready for that, and I can always buy it later. So, gosh, I just don't fucking know what to do. I think I'm going to play this for no effect, which is I pay a fund and I get a fund for it, and just delay any possible impact. That seems kind of shitty, but I think it's actually the best thing I can do. And I just want to get through, this cycle and get away from the game right now. Not because I just feel like I'm fucking it up too much. Which, it's the case of not being able to play it as much. When I played Here I Stand, when I played Sword of Rome, I was really into gaming at that point, and really learning the new aspects of the hobby. And I find the CDGs are really, really hard to play the way I play them more recently, which is with long breaks. Likewise, the Sejm card is played for no effect, and that's all we're doing tonight. Because I'm just not going to be able to devote, enough of my awareness to playing this at all effectively. And it's obvious that I wasn't before if I fucked up the Optimism card earlier. So I just don't know that I can play games effectively anymore. Okay, so the Swedes have to play their last card, the reshuffle, to attempt that siege. And they get a horrible result on it. End up taking 2 hits. And so, you can argue that the Optimism card, sure, it didn't do what it was supposed to, but at least there's no big harm with that. Swedes are going to have to pull out, and yeah. Now, they actually have to go completely home, too, which sucks for them, because they're not in a controlled space, and they're not going to get any option to move. I could have spent some of the points on moving them. Might have been wise, but I don't know. Instead, I built myself a boat with the additional points. To another, well, I'll get to this in a moment, but there's another issue with the cards that's troublesome. Okay. So, Russians decided to pass holding 2 cards. Ottomans had to pass. The Habsburgs bought themselves a fund. They have a bunch of 3-point cards. Just can't think of anything I want to do particularly with them. This is going to be kind of problematic for the Ottomans. They've got a couple of economic problems in areas that aren't even connected to them. So it's like, wow, is your economy really affected by that? Does it make sense that, losing these areas, to some extent you can say, well, if you're connected economically to a certain area, you might be offering resources or something. But there's just no way anything would get through to here. And why would it be any worse than losing the territory completely? That's I think something that works a little against the game in terms of believability, etc. Going to a, you don't have to make much. You don't have to have much historical understanding to kind of see that. Well, I shouldn't be getting a penalty off of that area being in whatever state that is. I don't know if that's famine or. I think that's revolt. But I think revolt's not as bad. If it was famine, it would be really troubling. Revolt is going to damage the domestic policy. But again, why would my domestic policy be hurt by these areas, which I may lose? That's still undecided, right? On the other hand, there's no reason for anyone to take territories in this game. Taking territories is just getting things that can cause you problems if they're not the key cities or a pathway to them. So there's that. All right, but what yanked my chain here at first was this. You get a bonus if you have at least one Hussars unit with manpower, Hussars, of 2 or more. Well, that's great, except I don't know what those are. Are those these? Are they these? Yeah. I don't believe that there's anywhere. So here, they say shown combat unit. I don't believe there's anywhere where they define what a Hussar looks like, what the counter marker is for it, and that's disturbing, to say the least. There should be some means of identifying what unit is referenced on the card. We are probably at about... Austrians are going to play one more card, but otherwise we're at the Poles are going to run the rest of the plays. They just have a huge hand, and not a whole hell of a lot I can do with it, because I didn't get any plus cards, so I can't play around with my tracks and whatnot, which is what I want to do. Cossacks are going to get slammed, I guess. Honestly, I suspect that these are the Hussars. It's a little odd, though, because Thunderous Charge... The reason is that they had a certain irregular quality to them, but they meant different things. Manpower rating of 2 or more. Yeah, that'll be anything. Has that capability. They're not what I would correspond with, like that heavy cav charge that would fit the Thunderous Charge wording. However, that's how I'm going to run them. I'm going to run them as that. Oh shit, I got to do something about this at some point. I hope I didn't play the card. Yeah, I've got a 1-point card to get rid of that I didn't do. But anyway, I built myself some of those cav who look like Lancers or something, so, and we'll play out the rest. So I spend most of my 3-point cards getting the Cossacks control down to 0. I don't have much left here. I don't have to pay for Cossacks. I have as many funds as I can. Austria's up to 3 funds, for Christ's sake. I'm holding this card because it's more flexible than the war against Persia. But with a 3-point card, I decide, okay, let's start looking at what I can buy. And I can buy me... I can't buy one of these. I didn't notice this until just now. 5 ops points. So you can't even build that with a 3-point card. You need to put a plus in there. I haven't seen a 3+, so yeah, you're probably looking at a 2+ and a 3 for that to work. So I got 3 remaining points, and one useful play might be to move here, 1, into national territory and build my army up a little bit. There's no way I could spend 3 that would be helpful. Two on troops is the best I can do. So that goes away. And now we're at return to capital. We have to pay attention that the Ottomans and Russians lose these guys if they have them. The Poles, if those are hussars, they're allowed 1 per army maximum. They're very cheap, but, you know, whatever. Okay, so looking at the auxiliary markers, the Turks are going to take 2 hits to their domestic policy. I'm not sure how that works. Let's take a look at this. Because again, like I said, I don't think the 5 space actually exists. I think you drop down to the 4. I'm trying to find the place where it talks about going backwards on those. This is... If the economy marker is leftmost, we're not in that position. Oof. I know that there's somewhere in the rules where it talks about this shit. I don't feel, you know, trying to hunt down specific rules to find out what the specific wording is, I don't think it actually works very well. So I'm going to say the 5 and the 0 are the same thing. I think that they are. I came to that conclusion previously. And that's going to get me from 2 cards more back down to 1 card more on domestic policy. Getting rid of these markers. That's a little crowded. And that handles these things. And now we look at the individual domestic policies and what the impact of the leaders is. So he goes up by 1 level. Means I have improved my card hand by some. Decrease by 1 level. Down to 2 cards less. Poles are beginning to see their issues showing up. Still militarily okay, but 2 columns up. Decrease by 1 level. There goes their card advantage. No mods. No mods. All right. And I think that puts me to the end of the turn. We shift to here. 1611. And I'm going to send this one up. I was hoping to get more than 1 turn on a video, but still having to fight a lot with, you know, figuring out rules, what they mean, you know, trying to conceive of all that, as well as still seeing a lot of new cards, you know, that either generate a problem or just bring forward a, hey, here's how you could use this. This is interesting because of this. And some additional new situations showing up in the game, like, you know, the Swedes building a boat or whatever. So the vids are taking a while, which is fine, you know. All right, let's send this one up, and maybe later today I'll get started on turn 3. But yeah.